I just got this. As you can see, it's a Ryobi palm sander. It says it was made in the 49th week of 2021. So it's not that old. I'm not going to bother to test it for the simple reason that I can't get this. Oh, well, I can't get that to move, but no. Oh, yeah, no, that does not feel right. So I'm not even going to bother to try turning it on. I mean, I'm told it doesn't work. I'm prepared to take their word for it because there's something funny going on there anyway. Looks like it's held together by what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 torque screws. What size are they, I wonder? What's that? They're that size. What's that? T20. So they're T20. Oh, that's going the wrong way. Turn that the other way. That in there. Right, let's have a look and see what we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that actually getting anything? Ah. 6. So what are we doing? This one there. 7. Do we get them all? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, you can see somebody's been sanding something. Paint, perhaps? White paint? Don't know. Right, now does this lift off now? It sounds like it's been glued. Okay, come on, have a look. Could you see anything else holding this on? Because I can't. This won't be attached to that part, will it? Because it's got a wiggle. What's that? Is that a dust outlet? It's full of dust in there anyway. So, right, that want to come apart. God, can't see anything that we're missing now. Why do you not want to come apart? Let's see if I can put a broad screwdriver in there without doing too much damage. Oh, there we go. So I can get a screwdriver in there. So what about here? Yeah, it doesn't want to come apart, does it? I'm not too sure I like that. Oh well, let's take this bottom piece off and have a look, just in case. Yeah. That's a 1. Or is it? Well, it's going to be a 1 now anyway. Two, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that doesn't seem to do a great deal. Oh, it takes that off. But does that matter? We've got more of these under here. And even more white stuff. One of those. I have to remember, oh, so these, oh, mind you, no, it's the same size, isn't it? I thought it was a bit stubbier, but it's not. Oh. That's about the same as those. Where are we? And then there's one there, that's the same size. And one there. So that's 4 more of those. And then what happens now? Does this? Oh, and that's a bearing. Well, despite all the horrible mess all over it, that feels fine. Now, are these connected through to here? Because if they are, that would explain why this won't come off or won't come apart. Oh, stand that up there out of the way. Let's take those out and see. Well, whoever was sanding most definitely sanded something white. Does this come out now? Ah, that comes out. Yes, and it did. Oh, look at that. So that went from there to there, which obviously has no effect, but it went across from there to there, so it locked these two halves together. Good job we didn't try and force it. Even if we did lever it with a screwdriver. Yeah, well, I'm doing a good job of getting white in here. But I think that will come apart now. It's just a tight fit. But I hate levering on plastic because so many times in the past I've levered a piece of plastic and ended up with pieces of plastic. Well, that's still a tight fit. I can't. I just literally cannot see. Oh, there we go. Any reason why that's stuck? Ah. Right. Oh, well, look at that. What's inside one of these? Nothing, basically. Right, there's our switch. What? Oh, oh my good lord. What a piece of junk. It just pushes that. That's a micro switch. And that moves backwards and forwards. It's got a tiny little bit of metal there, sprung steel, to press against. Ugh, hear it clicking past it? And when it clicks to there, it shuts the micro switch, and when it clicks to there, it doesn't shut the micro switch. Oh, what a piece of junk. That is appalling. Well, I've seen some poor quality tools, but this is ridiculous, this one. Right, so that, what are the bearings like? Oh. These all feel perfect, so that's where put that there. What have we got? The micro switch is just jammed in the plastic, so nothing special at all. There's your battery, motor. I like the little rubber band, little dinky rubber band. And then that's it. A stupid switch in here, which, well, it's not a switch, is it? It's just a piece of plastic. And then that sprung bit they've jammed in there quite tight. So these need a good shake off, and then a good wash. I'm going to annoy my wife and try and clean these in the sink. That always goes down well. This is somewhat bizarre. If you look at that what would be the negative wire, it's not soldered on. The wire goes through a hole in the motor, a blob of solder is on there, it's not actually attached to anything, look. And even weirder is that this shaft appears to be held in place by this plastic part on the back, so there's no actual metal cage holding that shaft. And I'm not sure how well it shows up, but that is not in the middle, it's off to one side slightly. So I think the whole bearing part of this motor is just gone. And if I try to turn it, obviously you can't see this, but I can feel it's rubbing inside there, which is ridiculous. So I'm going to unsolder this, pop off those lugs and take the end off and have a look at the motor. But it doesn't look like it's savable thanks to the end of it being made of plastic. Right, as I said, this negative side, I think if I keep wiggling it, just pull out. There's the blob of solder, it wasn't attached. The positive side has got this sort of hole drilled next to it, so I'm assuming that denotes positive, although it might not be. But obviously we can heat the solder on that and pull that one out. Come on, that's it. Right, now we just need to bend that lug out and that lug out, and then we should be able to pull the end of this off. I don't know if you can see, I'm working on the edge of the bench because it gives me a bit more leverage, but that's... I can just about lever that bit up. Not quite out all the way, and I've done that one, and again that one's not quite out all the way, but I think we're nearly there. Might be enough to actually, but it just seems ridiculous that somebody designed this and made it out of plastic. I'll just put a dot on here to remind me that that goes with there. You might be able to hear that rubbing on there, but of course it probably would now because it hasn't got anything holding it central, but the commutator is not looking too happy, it looks burnt. I don't know about the brushes, they don't look too bad, but I cannot believe that somebody designed this. I think what's happened is this has seized. I bet dust has got into the motor, it seized the bearing, spun it in its housing, and this is melted, and the whole thing is now offset, which makes it pretty much junk because of this being plastic. Yeah, I think that's melted on. It's just a piece of junk. Well, there's the little cage that helps hold the bush in. Yeah, and the bush has got all dust and what I think is melted plastic around it. See, even if you could repair this, I'm not sure how you would get the bush exactly central again. Alright, there's the bush that acts as the bearing, and it's difficult to show that it's stuck, but you can see, look, I'm just putting gentle pressure on there, but that is not turning, it's not moving at all. There it is. If I put a bit more pressure on, but as soon as I go back to just like gentle pressure of trying to turn it, it doesn't want to know. And you can see as I go to pull it off, I don't know if you can get an impression of how tight that is, but that's obviously meant to be a nice slidey fit, and that is not what it is. Not 100% sure. That's the only numbers on there. Standard motor, I think that's RS380, which is a standard motor size. SN2583DV. You can see they've skimped a little bit here as well, but I think most manufacturers would at this end. You've got a brass insert which clamps on tightly to the spindle, and then the outside cog is just, well, probably nylon, but basically a plastic cog. And again, the problem you're going to have is if I try to pull that off, there's always a chance the plastic will pull off of the brass instead of the whole thing pulling off, and you can't get behind it. Right, I just found this motor in amongst all my junk, which is exactly the same size. That's minus, that's plus. If I put that onto the battery, I've stuck a bit of tape on the end here so that you can see, because I've got a feeling it's going to be fairly quiet. But interestingly, if I push this switch in too far, I'm just out of shot with the switch. If I push that in a bit, that spins. So I go too far, it stops. So I think we've got a faulty switch as well. But this motor, I don't know. It's got no markings on it, so I don't actually know if it will be okay to run it long term on 18 volts. So the only thing I can think of is to do exactly that. Run it for a while on 18 volts and see what happens. It certainly seems quite happy buzzing along at 18 volts. Don't know how much torque it's got, but I'm presuming that it just ran fast anyway. That's my finger catching on the piece of paper. But like again, if I press a bit harder, it stops. I'm sure that's not quite right. Let's pull that off. So it looks like we need to find out what's wrong with the switch. But we've got a motor that is a possibility, but I will have a look at finding out if I can get one that's exactly the right one. But you can see that these are same size, and the spindle is the same size, so this would fit on there if I could get it off. Well, much to my amazement, I got that off, and it seems to have survived. And if you didn't quite believe me about how crooked and damaged this was before, look at this end. Can you see there's a slot? It's worn a slot across there where it's been pulled to one side by having that belt on it. It's actually pulled that across and then pulled that one across the other way. Unbelievable to think that they would rely on plastic and then have a belt here with constant stress on there. It never stood a chance. It could not possibly have worked. Just unbelievable what manufacturers will do. Will this fit on this motor? The answer is yes, it will. That will press on there. Right, this switch has got a tiny little aluminium rivet in there. I've just drilled the top of it off. See if that will... Yeah, there it is. That's popped it out. Does it come apart? And if it comes apart, how does it come apart? Ah, I think my fingernails just found a weak spot. Oh, there it goes. Don't know if you can see that's coming apart. And we'll try down this end. Yeah, it's coming apart. Oh, there we go. Let's try not to lose anything. Well, it doesn't look dirty inside, so why was it losing contact? Well, I pressed it too. Oh, mind you, yeah, it's all dusty in there, so the dust has been getting in it. Right, I've just noticed that this one, at least, this contact, will come out. And it's possibly got a tiny dirty spot there. And this contact here would be a normally closed contact, but it's not used, so that leg doesn't go anywhere. Oh, so that's there. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Right, so it doesn't really matter if that one's dirty contact or not, because we're not using it. So we're using this one and the top side of this one, and again, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a dirty mark just on the top there. Oh, in fact, it's come off so easy, that's ridiculous. So it's not much of a dirty mark. Oops, there it goes. And the same there. Oh, where did that just come from? Right, I've cleaned the switch and put it back together again, and I've pushed the little aluminium pin back in, but from the other side, so it seems to grip okay. And now, this is the new motor. And if I push it in and try and push it too far, it doesn't make any difference. It's either on or it's off. Now, how powerful this is and how fast it's spinning, I have no idea, so I won't really know until I assemble the whole thing. This motor's pretty easy to change, so I've ordered a motor from China that's the same size but says it's 18 volts. I've no idea what this is. I can't remember where I got it from. So, but I'm going to try putting it in with this and see what happens. I've pressed the cog back on. I think that's pretty much where it was before. It's more or less flush. The bearings on here are still as good as new. There's no movement, no free play, no noise, nothing. They're perfect. I've put a tiny little drop of oil around the edge of the shield in the hope that it will go down. I'm not going to try picking off the shield and putting extra grease or anything in them, because for me that's always been a recipe for disaster, and that one you can't get into anyway, so I've just put again a tiny little drop of oil on it and see if it will run down inside. This one obviously is very, very slightly greasable, but it needs literally a tiny little bit, which is again not easy with this brush. But I shall just put that little bit of grease on there, and now that one's got a tiny little bit of extra grease on it. But I don't think the motor actually lasted long enough for the bearings to ever get anywhere near worn. Right, hands up all those who can remember how this goes back together. I think we probably have to put that there on first, so that looks like that's got to move up a bit. That's in there, that's in there, that's in there. That's going to be driven by that. That's going to go around. That seems to be weighted to one side, so that's right. And then we've got this. This presumably has to go under there. And then this must have gone in here somewhere, so where did that end up? Can't remember. Somewhere over here though. Or was it there? No, it can't have been there like that, because that wires won't fit that way, so it must have been like that. So that must have gone it doesn't want to go in there now, but it looks like it went in there. Right, that obviously went there somewhere. Oh, that looks like that might have got in there. switch in there. Yeah, that seems reasonable, doesn't it? So this, did that go under there? I think that might have been underneath there, mightn't it? Right, let's see if we can fathom out how this goes. Oh, I see, it's not quite. Maybe we can't just swap a different motor in, because, does that sit? No, that's not sitting flat, is it? There's a peg in the way, and this hasn't got a cutout for that peg. It's not as clear cut as it looks. So if we swap to that, we haven't got the slot to hold the motor in place, because there is no slot on here. So they've used that peg on both sides, so it needs a little. Now that perhaps shows it a little bit better. There's the peg there. So that's the height where the motor sits, and that peg is sticking up 2, maybe 3 mil. They must be 180 degrees out from each other, so you literally need a sort of cutout here and there. I've just dug the old motor out of the bin, and yeah, it has got a slot there that it sits into, and a slot there that it sits into. So when this is on there, you can see that slot, I don't know how well it will show, but that slot goes in there like that, and now it can't turn because it's held in by that slot. So that's where we're stuck. That's the old top from the motor. I can mark, because it's sitting exactly where the brushes would be, I think is in line with there. Looks like it is, it's more or less there. You got that, and then there's that yellow pin, and then the same thing here. So it looks like we need a cut in there, and about that size to allow this to fit. The danger is that if we cut into this, we ruin it. Right, I've no idea if this is going to work, but I'm going to try and cut that slot and that slot. I can't see inside to see whether I'm going to hit anything. Right, I've used my cheap Chinese milling machine. It's a little baby milling machine. I've milled a 3mm slot there with a 3mm milling bit, and there's plastic in there, so it's cut into the plastic. It's also cut a slight hole into the inside. Hopefully not too many metal shavings got inside. And the same thing here, we've sort of hit the plastic and there's now a hole that side, but with a bit of luck not too much metal what got inside. This still seems to be spinning freely, so I don't think I've hit anything in there. I won't know till obviously I'll try and start it. Oh, did that just go? Oh, I think that did. Nothing's trapping that. Oh, I think that's actually gone on. So I don't know what was catching in the middle then. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we need a suitable size. I can't remember what size it was. Not that one. Smaller than that one. That looks like him. Will that fit in there okay? Yep, that goes in there okay. So that one's in a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, so then we've got these 3 little screws. I'm going to do these 3 little screws by hand because they don't feel like they've got an awful lot of plastic to go into. Yeah, that one almost feels like it's going round and round in circles. Hopefully it's just a sort of dust cover, so hopefully it's not got to be put on as if it's been hammered into place. But again, that one, that's just going round and round, so that's on. Right, now we've got this. That. Oh, there we go. Right. Again, I'm a little bit worried about how much plastic there is actually in these, so where these screws go in. So I might do these by hand as well. That gets us to there, and then this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I haven't got any proper pads for this, so I'll have to have a look and see if I can find something. Right, I found this, which is a hooky loopy one, but it's for a small Bosch sander that I repaired a while ago. Right, I found a bit of metal with a few rust spots on it. Let's see what it does to that. Sort of cuddle it to death, I think, might be. No, I think to be fair, it is actually having some effect. Not much, but some. And as this is a mixture of meal, scour and rust, that's quite hard work for a sander. But you can see from the mess that's coming off it that it is actually doing quite a reasonable job as a battery sander. I don't know if this motor's running slower than the original motor, because obviously I never saw the original motor work. Right, so there we go. I think we could call that a success. So one Ryobi sander fixed.